We've talked about police brutality as a whole, but now I think it's really important to focus on what's happening here on campus. We have a video of one of the better known protests that we would like to show you guys and just see what your thoughts are about it. So,
I gotta go to Ross right now, homie. If I don't get there, I'm gonna get fired. I got 6 kids to feed, and these niggas call us. Day goes on, homie. He's out every day. Deal with it the right way. Not like this.
This was the scene this morning. Thousands of irate commuters at a standstill, some getting out of their cars and taking matters into their own hands. One of the many angry drivers trying to get to work this morning was Tyree Landrum. In a moment that ended up going viral this morning, he got out of his car and pushed one of the protesters towards the center divider, wrestling his bullhorn away. The protesters were chanting, "No justice, no peace." Landrum wanted to send his own message. Many drivers felt the same sentiment, that the main injustice here was preventing them from getting to work in the middle of morning rush hour.
You guys don't have to go to work. They don't really know anything about the real issue, you know? They're just complaining about something that could be dealt with differently.
Meanwhile, many healthcare workers out of their cars and in their scrubs trying to get to area hospitals.
We have doctors and nurses who have to save life here, okay?
The drivers on scene rejoiced when the CHP and STPD showed up in force.
Spend the night in jail. That's where you guys are going to jail tonight.
Well, of course, that prediction ended up being untrue, prompting a slew of angry calls this morning. I'm Natasha Zu, West Virginia. Back to you.
so what are your guys' thoughts on that video?
You know, I understand where he was coming from a place of a father trying to provide for his kids. But one of the big things is that, we are out there, or the protest is for him. You know, the protest is for people like him. It's for his kids, because going to work every day and going, whether it be Ross or whatever job you go to, that doesn't protect your kids from death.
The freeway as a space of protest is very strategic. Freeways here in California, the 5 was built to connect the missions from San Diego mission to San Francisco mission. So it's a product of a colonial era, and it's also a process of capitalism. So cutting that flow cuts the oxygen for capitalism.
Yep.
So it hit everyone where it hurts the most, which is money, right, and production.
Definitely.
And I think it was very strategic, and very smart for the organizers to cut that, to say that these lives not mattering will cut the system of capitalist production and exploitation that happens.
There's a subliminal equality going on here. You heard the reporter say that drivers feel that the real injustice is that they can't get to a day of work.
Right.
And so there's a subliminal equality here that, a black man's life, or, a black person's life is equivalent to a day of work. Here, that's the real injustice that's going on here, is that these people can't just continue their daily lives as if nothing happened.
Right.
And so that's where you're getting to the real meat of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's the fact that when these sorts of things happen, the tendency of the American public is to pretend like there isn't any racism, to keep up the facade of we've moved past this racist thing to a post-racial society. And I think things like, the freeway protests is not just here, but, across the nation that happen, really force people to stop and think about the issue. Because if you have to call in late to work, if you have to tell your boss what's going on, if there are news stations, if you can't go anywhere, it forces everyone to talk about the issue.
People need to be able to see that this is important, and it's important to, if other lives are at stake, if my life is at stake, everybody's life, it matters to everybody. And I feel like that's why people were so upset that other lives were starting to be in place. Then it's an issue. Then people are upset when other lives are at risk.
Right.
But when black lives are at risk, it's not so much of a outrage.
So do you guys have any final thoughts or experiences that you guys would like to talk about?
Our purpose that day had nothing to do with violence. It had nothing to do with, just getting into, confrontation. The whole point was to make a strategic block to show people, to make people pay attention to what was going on, to hit America where it will feel the brunt of it, which is, you know, in a capitalist country, is in its pockets.
My final thoughts, I guess, is just like on the dude talking is kind of like he's a symbol for people to use, like, oh, even black people don't like it. And then it the fact that he said, you know, people die every day and this isn't the right way to do it. It's kind of like, what is the right way to do it? You
Exactly.
know? And he's going to, you know, basically saying that lives are insignificant because he has to continue his life, and that kind of goes into how this country is forcing people of color and forcing people of color to forget about their race, forget about what matters to humanity, and just focus on survival. Because this man right here is focused on survival. He doesn't have time to think about, like, you know, police brutality and how, like, every 28 hours somebody is, like, getting killed by police because he's trying to survive. And I feel like that's a greater issue of this country, is that, like, you know, people have these negative stereotypes of black men and black people in general, and a lot of those things are fostered because people are trying to survive. It's not out of just blatant ignorance. It's because when you are forced to survive, there's certain things that you don't get to think about on an everyday basis.
Exactly.
I definitely agree with you that Black Lives Matter is a transnational movement, and we have to look at it that way and see how it affects the, you know, different bodies and different localities all over the world, and see it as that forefront of change.